Welcome to Wikipedia to fall asleep to. Make yourself comfortable, let your eyes grow heavy, and let these quiet words carry you gently to sleep. Tonight, we begin with Ng Muk Kah. Jenny Ng Muk Kah was a Hong Kong dock worker who assisted the Royal Navy and other Commonwealth naval vessels at HMS Tamar in Admiralty, Hong Kong between 1928 and 1997. Over a career spanning nearly 70 years, she became one of the best-known civilian figures associated with the Royal Navy in Hong Kong and was awarded the British Empire Medal in 1980. Early life, Ng was a Hong Kong tanker, born in 1917 on a sampan in Causeway Bay. Her mother, who had two daughters, was a second-generation leader of ship-washing female workers and was responsible for helping the Royal Navy stationed at Hong Kong borrow sampans, providing sand and mud, and exchanging currency. She was known by naval personnel as Jenny 1. Ng never received any formal education. In 1928, when she was only 11 years old, she joined her mother's line of work along with her elder sister, washing ships at the HMS Tamar Naval Base in Admiralty. Like her mother, Ng took Jenny as her English name. She learned English through her daily work and gradually became well known to the Royal Navy personnel stationed in Hong Kong. According to her memory, HMS Barrack was the first warship she served. Jenny's side party, traditionally, scraping rust from a warship's hull and repainting it was the duty of sailors, who needed to erect temporary staging from the shore or approach the hull from rafts and other small boats. These tasks took a long time, and the rust and paint were highly likely to fall onto the sailors' uniforms, making it a thankless and arduous job. In Hong Kong, however, these tasks were handled entirely by female workers. During the peak period from the 1930s to the 1950s, up to 70 women were engaged in this work. Whenever a stationed or visiting warship berthed, they would approach the ship in teams via sampans, using long-handled brushes or paint rollers to refurbish the hull, often working an average of 10 hours a day. By the age of 13, Ng had already become a leader of the female workers, leading her team at the naval base to clean docked Royal Navy ships and other Commonwealth naval vessels, including the Royal Australian Navy. Within the station naval community, they earned the nickname Jenny's Side Party. After World War II, in addition to them, there was the Mary Sue Side Party on the north shore of Hong Kong Island, specializing in serving visiting United States Navy warships, and the Susie's Side Party, serving ships of local Royal Navy personnel. The Jenny and Susie side parties would sometimes quarrel over competing for ships. In addition to cleaning hulls, scraping rust, and repainting, Ng and her workers were also responsible for polishing the ship's brass parts, doing laundry and ironing for the sailors, clearing trash, and providing other ship management services. She would also specially buy newspapers and fruit daily for senior officers on board, and place fresh flowers in their living quarters. Whenever a cocktail party was held on board, they would serve as waitresses. Furthermore, Ng often assisted sailors in mailing letters and packages, and liked to gift them symbolic souvenirs like jade. Whenever a sailor was unable to leave port with the ship due to illness, she would arrange care for them. Notably, Jenny's side party never charged a penny. Their sole source of income came from selling soft drinks to the ship's crew and recycling and selling discarded cables, ropes, food, and even general waste and other miscellaneous scrap collected from the vessels. During its heyday, Jenny's side party consisted of up to around 36 women. They all wore traditional Chinese blouses, da jin shan, traditional silk trousers and conical hats, with their hair tied up, which became the iconic image of ship-washing female workers at the time. Although many stationed and visiting sailors who interacted with Ng did not know her real name, they all felt she was amiable and generous, leaving a deep impression with her ever-smiling face and the few gold teeth in her mouth. Ng's long-term service at HMS Tamar made the names of Jenny and Jenny's side party almost universally known among several generations of stationed Royal Navy personnel and visiting Commonwealth naval forces. Many sailors took commemorative photos with Jenny and her workers, treating her as an honored guest. Some sailors who became close friends with her later rose to become top naval commanders. Ng served the Royal Navy from 1928 until the handover of Hong Kong in 1997, spanning nearly 70 years and hosting hundreds of warships. Over the years, she received commendation letters from various ship commanders, one of which was personally delivered by the Prince Consort, Prince Philip, during his 1959 visit to Hong Kong aboard the royal yacht HMY Britannia. In fact, Ng had known Prince Philip since 1945, when he was just a naval lieutenant and not yet married. Although Ng was never an official member of the Royal Navy establishment, she was awarded an unofficial, high replica, long service and good conduct medal by the captain of HMS Dorsetshire in 1938. Later, bars were added in 1969 and 1975 by the crews of HMS Berry Head and HMS Leander, respectively. In the 1980 Queen's Birthday Honours, she was awarded the British Empire Medal, BEM, and was personally invested by the then Governor of Hong Kong, Sir Murray MacLehose, at Government House in October of the same year. The official citation from the British Crown praised her, stating, "The standard of Miss Ng's work is exceptionally high, and one of which she can be justly proud." Personnel who have served in the Royal or Commonwealth navies have been deeply impressed by Jenny. In 1983, the Royal Navy named a ferry after her, the Jenny. However, Ng's close relationship with the Royal Navy led to a relatively difficult life during the 3 years and 8 months of the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong, from 1941 to 1945. During this time, the sharp decline in visiting ships meant her work and income were far worse than before. Furthermore, she had to secretly hide all the commendation letters given by the Royal Navy in the double bottom of her sampan, and concealed the long service and good conduct medal inside the heel of her shoe to avoid discovery by the Japanese military. After the liberation, she carefully kept the commendation letters received over the years in 2 thick photo albums, and stored numerous group photos with naval personnel in various large envelopes, showing great treasure for these records. Later life entering the 1980s, with the decrease in the number of visiting ships, the workload of Jenny's side party was not as frequent as before, but Ng still provided services to the Royal Navy. In 1994, the dockyard at the HMS Tamar Naval Base officially closed to make way for land reclamation. However, until the final days of British rule in June 1997, her figure could still be seen at Tamar. As an iconic figure of the naval base, Ng was received by Prince Philip and Prince Charles in the 1980s and 1990s, and attended military commemoration ceremonies such as Liberation Day held at the cenotaph as an honored guest. Following the establishment of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region on 1st of July 1997, Ng officially retired as the Royal Navy withdrew from Hong Kong. In her later years, she was cared for by a niece and was reportedly saddened by losing touch with many of her former naval friends. On 19th of February 2009, she passed away in Hong Kong at the age of 92. Newspapers, such as Hong Kong's South China Morning Post and the UK's The Times and the Daily Telegraph, published dedicated obituaries reviewing her life in tribute. Personal life, relatively little, is known about Ng's private life. According to contemporary reports, she was married and had 2 daughters. Both daughters attended university in the United Kingdom and later settled in the United States. When you are ready, we move on to Tamagotchi, the movie. Tamagotchi, the movie. Japanese letter, 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 Japanese letter. Japanese letter, 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 Japanese letter. Japanese letter, 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 Japanese letter. Appearing on film. Tamagotchi, heart-throbbing. Lost Child in Space is a 2007 Japanese animated film produced by OLM's Team Kame division. It is the first Tamagotchi feature film ever officially produced, based on the digital pet franchise jointly created by Bandai and YZ. It is directed by Joji Shimura, who also worked on Pokémon, and written by Aya Matsui, who also worked on Boys Over Flowers, and was released in theaters by Toho on December 15, 2007, and on DVD on July 23, 2008 in Japan. The movie was dubbed and released by Madman Entertainment on June 1, 2009, in English in both Australia and the United Kingdom. It is followed by a sequel, Tamagotchi, Happiest Story in the Universe. Plot on Tamagotchi planet, Mamechi had just finished his latest invention, the transporter machine. At the same time, on Earth, a young girl named Tampopo goes off to deliver a forgotten item to her mother who is having a baby. Mamechi's best friends, Mamechi and Kuchipachi, arrive at Mamechi's house just in time to see Mamechi try out his new invention. Several events result in the aim of the forwarding machine to go off course, and Tampopo is brought to Tamagotchi planet. The next day, Tampopo goes to school to learn with Mamechi, Memechi, Kuchipachi, and the Tamagotchi children. During science class, an explosion engulfs the room into smoke and darkness. Almost everyone is fine, but Mamechi crouches on the floor in fear. Later at a restaurant, Mamechi explains that he has been afraid of the dark ever since he got trapped in a hole when he was a young child. He fears he will be an embarrassment to his little sibling. Mamechi built the transporter machine to bring himself his own private sun, to give him a light that won't go out. Mamechi vows to begin experiments to make a little sun for himself. One day, Mamechi and Tampopo stay home. Papa Mamechi gives Tampopo a key that will take her back to the time when she was forwarded to Tamagotchi planet. After several more events, an egg bounds out of the window, rolls down the street, and eventually falls into a bundle of balloons that end up caught on the top of a high tower. Soon all of Tamagotchi planet is watching Mamechi try to save the egg. Mamechi, Tampopo, and Memechi are all trying to save Mamechi's younger sibling, and Kuro Mamechi saves all three of them, using Kuchipachi as a trampoline. Soon the egg hatches into Mamechi's sister, Cha Mamechi. A montage of events follow as Cha Mamechi grows to kindergarten age, while Mamechi finally succeeds in creating Mame Sunichi, a little sun that will follow Mamechi everywhere and always provide him with light. The real Tamagotchi planet sun, Sunichi, witnesses this. Soon after, the rocket for Tampopo is complete. Mamechi says he wants Tampopo to stay for the birthday celebrations for the king, and both Tampopo and Mamechi's parents agree. The next morning, it is dark outside. Sunichi is nowhere to be found, and thus Tamagotchi planet has no light. Mamechi and the others find this odd, but go to school anyway. During the birthday preparations, a sneezing sound is heard, and the Tamagotchi planet inhabitants are violently thrown into the air. It is soon discovered that Tamagotchi planet caught a cold due to having no heat. Mamechi and Tampopo overhear the principal of Tamagotchi school explaining that Sunichi left a goodbye note, apparently because Mamechi created a new sun. Mamechi takes this to mean that the whole situation was his fault. That night, Mamechi sneaks out of the house with Mame Sunichi and enters the completed rocket. Suddenly, Tampopo, Mamechi, and Kuchipachi appear, eager to help. They give Mamechi the manual, and he is able to start up the rocket. Cha Mamechi sneaks aboard at the last minute, and they are forced to take her with them. As the passengers enter space, Papa Mamechi, Memechi, and Kuchipachi's parents appear on the video screen and demand that they return. When Mamechi tells Papa Mamechi about how he is taking responsibility for his mistakes, Papa Mamechi reluctantly agrees. The scientists had developed medicine for the Tamagotchi planet, and the pill was mounted on top of the rocket. They have only one medicine capsule, and only one chance of administering it. Before Mamechi can fire the pill, Cha Mamechi jumps into his lap at the last moment, dislocating the rocket's trajectory. Though it appears they have failed at curing Tamagotchi planet, Tamagotchi world is able to absorb it with its runny nose. At this point, Mamechi is about to go in search of Sunichi, but the rocket is sent spiraling away and outside of radio contact. Mamechi finally reaches the breaking point when Cha Mamechi asks to talk to Papa Mamechi, yelling at her for if she hadn't performed her rendezvous with Star Command, they wouldn't be lost in the infinity and beyond. This results in Cha Mamechi starting to cry. Tanpopo tells Mamechi he was a little too hard on Cha Mamechi and takes Cha Mamechi into another room to comfort her. Mamechi and the others join Tanpopo and Cha Mamechi for several minutes, where Mamechi and Cha Mamechi make up, and Tanpopo now knows what is in store for her when her younger sibling is born, and is no longer afraid of the responsibility of being an older sibling. Suddenly, the ship shakes violently, and they return to the command center to find that there are all sorts of objects flying towards them. They suddenly realize that they are drifting towards a black hole, and Mamechi is stricken with fear. Mamechi attempts to fire the rocket, but the ship cannot escape the pull of the black hole. Suddenly, communications with the Tamagotchi planet are restored. One of the scientists, Professor Mamechi, notices that the black hole is actually a Tamagotchi named Blackholchi. The only way to save the passengers is to wake Blackholchi up. Mamechi activates the loudspeaker, and everyone on the ship screams out, trying and awaken Blackholchi. A meteoroid slams into the ship and blocks the loudspeaker, nullifying their efforts. In desperation, Mamechi and Tanpopo put on spacesuits and try to dislodge the meteoroid. With the meteoroid dislodged, Mamechi, Kuchipachi, and Cha Mamechi start shouting at Blackholchi again. Soon, all of the people on Tamagotchi planet join in. Mamechi is finally able to overcome his fear of the dark and joins in the call to awaken Blackholchi. However, the wire snaps, sending Mamechi and Tanpopo into Blackholchi. Cha Mamechi starts screaming for Blackholchi to wake up once more, and soon Tamagotchi planet itself makes a loud cry. This finally reaches Blackholchi, who awakes from his slumber. Mamechi is heard calling out from within Blackholchi, and the universe's largest Tamagotchi apologizes and returns them to the ship. Communications are once again cut off. Papa Mamechi noted that the rocket has used up all of its fuel, and there is no way for the rocket's passengers to return. Just a few moments later, Mamechi's connection is restored, and the passengers have returned home. Sunichi brought them all back to Tamagotchi planet. Sunichi explains that he just left to go on a hot springs tour. The celebration for the king's birthday begins, and there is a parade through Tama Town. Halfway through, Papa Mamechi and Mama Mechi find Tanpopo and tell her that Kamechi is about to fly by Tamagotchi planet and is willing to take Tanpopo back to Earth. Tanpopo, Mamechi and his family, Mamechi, and Kuchipachi quickly go to the meadow to meet Kamechi. Tanpopo finally opens up the bag that she was supposed to be taking to her mother, and sees it is the dress that she had worn when she was a newborn. Cha Mamechi cries that she does not want Tanpopo to go, and a tearful farewell follows, with the Tamagotchis promising to never forget her. Tanpopo is back at her desk in her room, at the exact time before she was forwarded to Tamagotchi planet. She wonders if it was all a dream, until she sees the key she was given. Just then, her mother calls, and Tanpopo tells her she is about to deliver her bag. Months later, Tanpopo receives a letter in her Tamagotchi from Mamechi and Cha Mamechi. Tanpopo sends back a letter in her mind, saying that her baby brother is selfish, but has a kind heart. Box office: the film grossed $6,784,907 at the Japanese box office as of January 20th, 2008. Let us drift gently now toward 475 Linebaugh. The 475 Linebaugh 12 1x36 mmR is a rimmed revolver cartridge developed by John Linebaugh in 1986 in response to the scarcity of the 348 Winchester brass required to form his 500 Linebaugh cartridge. The cartridge is based on the 45 to 70 government case trimmed to 1.4 in 36 millimeters and loaded with 475-inch diameter 12.1 millimeters bullets. While dimensionally similar to the older 45 Silhouette cartridge, the 475 Linebaugh is loaded to considerably higher pressures, resulting in significantly different ballistic performance. The 475 Linebaugh was first announced in the May 1988 issue of Guns and Ammo in an article written by Ross Seyfried. In 1991, Linebaugh announced a 1.6 in 41 millimeters variant of the 475 Linebaugh for use in converted Ruger 357 Maximum revolvers. This cartridge is known as the 475 Linebaugh Long or 475 Linebaugh Maximum and produces somewhat greater ballistic performance than the shorter round. Usage: the 475 Linebaugh is intended primarily for hunting and defense against big game. The 475 is capable of propelling a 400-grain 26G bullet at a muzzle velocity of 1,400 feet per second, developing 1741 foot-pounds, 2,360 J of muzzle energy from a 5 in 140 millimeters barrel. These figures compare favorably to those of the popular 44 Magnum, which fires a 240-grain 16G bullet at 1,475 feet per second, producing 1,160 foot-pounds, 1,570 J of muzzle energy from a 5 in 190 millimeters barrel. 475 Linebaugh is ballistically comparable to the 454 Casual, 500 Linebaugh and trapdoor level loadings of the 45 to 70 government, though it is less powerful than the 460 S&W Magnum, 500 Wyoming Express, 500 S&W Magnum and 500 Bushwhacker rounds, as well as Linebaugh's own 475 and 500 Maximum cartridges. With the exception of the 500 Wyoming Express, however, the 475 Linebaugh is generally chambered in lighter and more compact revolvers than such Super Magnum cartridges, lending itself to easier carry and field use. This results in a relatively high power-to-weight ratio which, in the absence of a muzzle brake, often entails greater felt recoil than produced by heavier firearms chambered in more powerful cartridges. In 2003, Ruger introduced the 480 Ruger, which is essentially a 475 Linebaugh shortened to 1 285 and 32.6 millimeters, with a marginally lower pressure ceiling, 48,000 psi, 330 MPa for the 480 Ruger versus 50,000 psi, 340 MPa for the 475 Linebaugh. The performance and recoil generated by the 480 Ruger with standard loadings are comparatively less than those of the 475 Linebaugh. Furthermore, just as the 38 special cartridge will chamber and fire in revolvers chambered for the more powerful 357 Magnum, the 480 Ruger will chamber and fire in revolvers chambered for the 475 Linebaugh. However, given their comparable operating pressures, the two rounds are far closer in performance than such a comparison would seem to suggest. The 475 Linebaugh remains a relatively obscure cartridge, owing in part to the commercial success of Smith and Wesson's more powerful 460S and W Magnum and 500S and W Magnum cartridges. However, while the 475 Linebaugh was once an exclusively custom proposition, both the Freedom Arms Model 83 and the Magnum Research BFR are currently available in the cartridge. See also 500 Linebaugh 12mm caliber, list of rimmed cartridges, list of handgun cartridges. When you are ready, we move on to morphogenesis. Morphogenesis is the biological process that causes a cell, tissue, or organism to develop its shape. It is one of three fundamental aspects of developmental biology, along with the control of tissue growth and the patterning of cellular differentiation. The process controls the organized spatial distribution of cells during the embryonic development of an organism. Morphogenesis can take place also in a mature organism, such as in the normal maintenance of tissue by stem cells or in regeneration of tissues after damage. Cancer is an example of a pathological process of tissue morphogenesis, characterized by significant abnormalities. Morphogenesis also describes the development of unicellular life forms that do not have an embryonic stage in their life cycle. Morphogenesis is essential for the evolution of new forms. Morphogenesis is a mechanical process involving forces that generate mechanical stress, strain, and movement of cells. This process can be induced by genetic programs, according to the spatial patterning of cells within tissues. Abnormal morphogenesis is called dysmorphogenesis. Some of the earliest ideas and mathematical descriptions on how physical processes and constraints affect biological growth, and hence natural patterns such as the spirals of phyllotaxis, were written by Darcy Wentworth Thompson in his 1917 book on growth and form, and Alan Turing in his The Chemical Basis of Morphogenesis, where Thompson explained animal body shapes as being created by varying rates of growth in different directions. For instance, to create the spiral shell of a snail, Turing correctly predicted a mechanism of morphogenesis, the diffusion of two different chemical signals, one activating and one deactivating growth, to set up patterns of development, decades before the formation of such patterns was observed. The fuller understanding of the mechanisms involved in actual organisms required the discovery of the structure of DNA in 1953 and the development of molecular biology and biochemistry. Several types of molecules are important in morphogenesis. Morphogens are soluble molecules that can diffuse and carry signals that control cell differentiation via concentration gradients. Morphogens typically act through binding to specific protein receptors. An important class of molecules involved in morphogenesis are transcription factor proteins that determine the fate of cells by interacting with DNA. These can be coded for by master regulatory genes and either activate or deactivate the transcription of other genes. In turn, these secondary gene products can regulate the expression of still other genes in a regulatory cascade of gene regulatory networks. At the end of this cascade are classes of molecules that control cellular behaviors such as cell migration, or, more generally, their properties, such as cell adhesion or cell contractility. For example, during gastrulation, clumps of stem cells switch off their cell-to-cell adhesion, become migratory, and take up new positions within an embryo where they again activate specific cell adhesion proteins and form new tissues and organs. Developmental signaling pathways implicated in morphogenesis include WNT, hedgehog, and effrins. At a tissue level, ignoring the means of control, morphogenesis arises because of cellular proliferation and motility. Morphogenesis also involves changes in the cellular structure, or how cells interact in tissues. These changes can result in tissue elongation, thinning, folding, invasion or separation of one tissue into distinct layers. The latter case is often referred as cell sorting. Cell sorting out consists of cells moving so as to sort into clusters that maximize contact between cells of the same type. The ability of cells to do this has been proposed to arise from differential cell adhesion by Malcolm Steinberg through his differential adhesion hypothesis. Tissue separation can also occur via more dramatic cellular differentiation events during which epithelial cells become mesenchymal, see epithelial, mesenchymal transition. Mesenchymal cells typically leave the epithelial tissue as a consequence of changes in cell adhesive and contractile properties. Following epithelial mesenchymal transition, cells can migrate away from an epithelium and then associate with other similar cells in a new location. In plants, cellular morphogenesis is tightly linked to the chemical composition and the mechanical properties of the cell wall. Cell-to-cell adhesion during embryonic development. Cells are restricted to different layers due to differential affinities. One of the ways this can occur is when cells share the same cell-to-cell adhesion molecules. For instance, homotypic cell adhesion can maintain boundaries between groups of cells that have different adhesion molecules. Furthermore, cells can sort based upon differences in adhesion between the cells, so even two populations of cells with different levels of the same adhesion molecule can sort out. In cell culture, cells that have the strongest adhesion move to the center of a mixed aggregates of cells. Moreover, cell-cell adhesion is often modulated by cell contractility, which can exert forces on the cell-cell contacts so that two cell populations with equal levels of the same adhesion molecule can sort out. The molecules responsible for adhesion are called cell adhesion molecules, CAM. Several types of cell adhesion molecules are known, and one major class of these molecules are cadherins. There are dozens of different cadherins that are expressed on different cell types. Cadherins bind to other cadherins in a like-to-like manner. E-cadherin, found on many epithelial cells, binds preferentially to other E-cadherin molecules. Mesenchymal cells usually express other cadherin types, such as Ng cadherin. Extracellular matrix, the extracellular matrix, ECM, is involved in keeping tissues separated, providing structural support, or providing a structure for cells to migrate on. Collagen, laminin, and fibronectin are major ECM molecules that are secreted and assembled into sheets, fibers, and gels. Multisubunit transmembrane receptors, called integrins, are used to bind to the ECM. Integrins bind extracellularly to fibronectin, laminin, or other ECM components, and intracellularly to microfilament-binding proteins alpha-actinin and tailin to link the cytoskeleton with the outside. Integrins also serve as receptors to trigger signal transduction cascades when binding to the ECM. A well-studied example of morphogenesis that involves ECM is mammary gland ductal branching. Cell contractility tissues can change their shape and separate into distinct layers via cell contractility. Just as in muscle cells, myosin can contract different parts of the cytoplasm to change its shape or structure. Myosin-driven contractility in embryonic tissue morphogenesis is seen during the separation of germ layers in the model organisms Caenorhabditis elegans, Drosophila, and zebrafish. There are often periodic pulses of contraction in embryonic morphogenesis. A model called the cell state splitter involves alternating cell contraction and expansion, initiated by a bistable organelle at the apical end of each cell. The organelle consists of microtubules and microfilaments in mechanical opposition. It responds to local mechanical perturbations caused by morphogenetic movements. These then trigger traveling embryonic differentiation, waves of contraction or expansion over presumptive tissues that determine cell type, and is followed by cell differentiation. The cell state splitter was first proposed to explain neural plate morphogenesis during gastrulation of the axolotl, and the model was later generalized to all of morphogenesis. In the development of the lung, a bronchus branches into bronchioles forming the respiratory tree. The branching is a result of the tip of each bronchiolar tube bifurcating, and the process of branching morphogenesis forms the bronchi, bronchioles, and ultimately the alveoli. Branching morphogenesis is also evident in the ductal formation of the mammary gland. Primitive duct formation begins in development, but the branching formation of the duct system begins later in response to estrogen during puberty and is further refined in line with mammary gland development. Cancer morphogenesis cancer can result from disruption of normal morphogenesis, including both tumor formation and tumor metastases. Mitochondrial dysfunction can result in increased cancer risk due to disturbed morphogen signaling. virus morphogenesis during assembly of the bacteriophage, phage, T4 virion. The morphogenetic proteins encoded by the phage genes interact with each other in a characteristic sequence. Maintaining an appropriate balance in the amounts of each of these proteins produced during viral infection appears to be critical for normal phage T4 morphogenesis. Phage T4 encoded proteins that determine virion structure include major structural components, minor structural components, and non-structural proteins that catalyze specific steps in the morphogenesis sequence. Phage T4 morphogenesis is divided into three independent pathways: the head, the tail, and the long tail fibers as detailed by Yap and Rossman. Computer models, an approach to model morphogenesis in computer science or mathematics, can be traced to Alan Turing's 1952 paper, The Chemical Basis of Morphogenesis, a model now known as the Turing pattern. Another famous model is the so-called French flag model, developed in the 60s. Improvements in computer performance in the 21st century enabled the simulation of relatively complex morphogenesis models. In 2020, such a model was proposed where cell growth and differentiation is that of a cellular automaton with parametrized rules. As the rules parameters are differentiable, they can be trained with gradient descent, a technique which has been highly optimized in recent years due to its use in machine learning. This model was limited to the generation of pictures and is thus bidimensional. A similar model to the one described above was subsequently extended to generate three-dimensional structures and was demonstrated in the video game Minecraft, whose block-based nature made it particularly expedient for the simulation of 3D cellular automatons. When you are ready, we move on to requirements engineering. In the waterfall model, requirements engineering is presented as the first phase of the software development process. Later development methods, including the Rational Unified Process, RUP, for software, assume that requirements engineering continues through a system's lifetime. Requirements management, which is a subfunction of systems engineering practices, is also indexed in the International Council on Systems Engineering in COS manuals. The activities involved in requirements engineering vary widely, depending on the type of system being developed and the organization's specific practice involved. These may include requirements inception or requirements elicitation. Developers and stakeholders meet. The latter are inquired concerning their needs and wants regarding the software product. Requirements analysis and negotiation. Requirements are identified, including new ones if the development is iterative, and conflicts with stakeholders are solved. Both written and graphical tools, the latter commonly used in the design phase, but some find them helpful at this stage, are successfully used as aids. Examples of written analysis tools, use cases and user stories. Examples of graphical tools, Unified Modeling Language, UML, and Life Cycle Modeling Language, LML. System modeling, some engineering fields or specific situations, require the product to be completely designed and modeled before its construction or fabrication starts. Therefore, the design phase must be performed in advance. For instance, blueprints for a building must be elaborated before any contract can be approved and signed. Many fields might derive models of the system with the LML, whereas others might use UML. Note, in many fields such as software engineering, most modeling activities are classified as design activities and not as requirement engineering activities. Requirement specification. Requirements are documented in a formal artifact called a requirement specification, RS, which will become official only after validation. A RS can contain both written and graphical models, information if necessary. Example, Software Requirement Specification, SRS. Requirements validation, checking that the documented requirements and models are consistent and meet the stakeholders' needs. Only if the final draft passes the validation process, the RS becomes official. Requirements management, managing all the activities related to the requirements since inception, supervising as the system is developed, and even until after it is put into use, e.g., changes, extensions, and so on. These are sometimes presented as chronological stages, although, in practice, there is considerable interleaving of these activities. Requirements engineering has been shown to clearly contribute to software project successes. Problems One limited study in Germany presented possible problems in implementing requirements engineering and asked respondents whether they agreed that they were actual problems. The results were not presented as being generalizable, but suggested that the principal perceived problems were incomplete requirements, moving targets, and time boxing, with lesser problems being communications flaws, lack of traceability, terminological problems, and unclear responsibilities. Criticism problem structuring, a key aspect of requirements engineering, has been speculated to reduce design performance. Some research suggests that it is possible if there are deficiencies in the requirements engineering process, resulting in a situation where requirements do not exist. Software requirements may be created regardless, as an illusion, misrepresenting design decisions. As requirements, see also List of requirements engineering tools, requirements analysis. Requirements engineering focused in software engineering. Requirements Engineering Specialist Group, RESC. International Requirements Engineering Board, IRB. International Council on Systems Engineering, INCOS. IEEE 12207, Systems and Software Engineering, Software Lifecycle Processes, TOGF, Chapter 17. Concept of Operations, CON-OPS, Operations Management Software Requirements Specification, Software Engineering Body of Knowledge, SWEBOC, Design Specification, Technical Standard, Formal Specification, Software Quality Management, Scope Management. Next, we turn softly to Manfred Weiss, composer. Manfred Weiss was a German composer, especially of symphonies, concertos, and vocal music, based in Dresden. He taught composition and music theory at the Hochschule für Musik Karl Maria von Weber from 1959, as professor from 1983 to 1997, influencing generations of composers, and instrumental in the restructuring of the music department after the German reunification. Leif Weiss was born in Niesky, Upper Lusatia. He grew up in a missionary family of the Hertenhut Brethren community. He received violin lessons in Niesky and piano lessons in Görlitz in childhood. He also sang in the church choir and played the organ. At the age of 12, he composed his first pieces. After his Abitur in 1952, Weiss studied at the Staatliche Hochschule für Theater und Musik Halle until 1955, composition with Hans Stieber and music theory with Franz von Glasenapp. Minor subjects were piano and viola. From 1955 to 1957, he studied at the Hochschule für Musik Hans Eisler in East Berlin, composition with Rudolf Wagner-Regeni, and music theory with Ruth Zechlin, harmony, and Eugen Wilbrandt, counterpoint. He graduated in 1957, but was not accepted for a position in Berlin due to critical remarks about the East German uprising of 1953. From 1957 to 1959, he studied further in Wagner-Regeni's master class at the Academy of Arts, Berlin. In 1959, he was appointed a lecturer for composition at the Hochschule für Musik Karl Maria von Weber in Dresden. He was professor of composition and music theory there from 1983 and proctor from 1991 to 1997, being instrumental in the restructuring of the music department after the German reunification. He was emeritus from 1998. Weiss was a member of the Sächsischer Musikbund. Weiss died in Dresden on 25th of April 2023, at age 88. Weiss composed more than 120 works, for orchestra, chamber and choral music as well as songs. His models include Bela Bartok, Paul Hindemith, Georgy Leijsky, Witold Lutoslawski, Arnold Schoenberg, and Igor Stravinsky. He was known for an upright attitude, defending his Christian ethics under the East German regime. His works, including manuscripts and recordings, are held by the Saxon State and University Library, Dresden. Many works were published by Breitkopf and Hedel. Main works include Symphony No. 3, 1979/80, Symphony No. 4, 1986/87, Symphony No. 5 Concerto for Organ, Strings and Percussion, 1975/76, Violin Concerto, 1976/77, Cello Concerto Ahnung der Liebe, Song Cycle for Baritone and Orchestra Die Erlösten Gottes, Cantata after the Book of Revelation for 2 mixed choirs, brass and percussion. His song cycle was first performed at the Stadttheater Cottbus in 1976, with soloist Günther Leib and conductor F. Morgenstern. His organ concerto was first played in 1977 by soloist Amadeus Webersink, and the Dresdner Staatskapelle conducted by Siegfried Kurz. In 1979 it was repeated, conducted by Herbert Kegel, leading to further performances and a recording. It was repeated further in 1987, on the occasion of the Leipzig Messe, by the Leipzig Gewandhaus Orchestra conducted by Kurt Masser, with Michael Schönheit as the organist. His third symphony was premiered in 1984 by the Staatskapelle conducted by Herbert Blomstedt, and his fourth in 1989 by the Dresdner Philharmonie conducted by Lothar Zagrosek as part of the Dresden Music Festival. In 1998, Die Erlersten Gotts was premiered by the Dresdner Kreuzchor conducted by Roderich Krehl, a gift to Krehl on the occasion of him assuming the post as Kreuzkantor. The soloist of his song cycle was baritone Günther Leib. Awards 1977. Martin Anderson Nexer Kunstpreis by the city of Dresden 1977. Hans Eisler Prize by Radio DDR 1977. Hans Stieber Prize by the Komponistenverband of Halle 1985. Art Prize of the German Democratic Republic Writings, Jeder hat sein eigenes Programm. Die Komponistenklassen der Hochschule für Musik, Karl Maria von Weber, Dresden und ihre Absolventen, 1966 to 1999. In Matthias Hermann ed. Dresden und die Avancierte Musik im 20. Jahrhundert. Okok 43,262,696. Report of a colloquium by Dresdner Zentrum für Zeitgenössische Musik and the Institute for Musicology of the Hochschule für Musik Dresden, Part 3, 1966 to 1999, Vom 9. Bis 11. October 2000 in Dresden. Lauber, 2004. ISBN 3-89007 to 511-8, pages 125 to 140. Next, we turn softly to Luis Fernández. Luis Fernández Tejero is a Spanish former professional footballer who played as a forward. Club career: born in Burela, province of Lugo, Fernández was a youth product of neighboring Deportivo de La Coruña. He made his debut as a senior with the reserves, representing them in the Tercera División and scoring 21 goals in the 2012-13 season. Fernández made his official debut for the Galicians' first team on 17 August 2013, starting in a 1-0 away win over UD Las Palmas in the Segunda División. He scored his first goal in the competition on 3 November, his team's last in the 2-0 home victory against Real Madrid Castilla. Fernández scored 5 goals from 28 appearances in 2013-14, as Depor returned to La Liga at the first attempt. On 18 July 2014, he was loaned to neighboring second division club CD Lugo in a season-long deal. Still owned by the former, he joined SD Huesca of the same league the following campaign. On 21 July 2016, Fernández terminated his contract with Deportivo and signed a 2-year deal with AD Alcorcón hours later. On 10 January of the following year, he cut ties with the latter and moved to the second tier with UChem Murcia CF the next day. After suffering a knee injury, Fernández returned to Deportivo B on 1 September 2017 as a free agent. He rejoined UChem in July 2018, now on a permanent basis. On 3 July 2019, Fernández signed a 2-year contract with Super League Greece club Asteras Tripolis F.C. for an undisclosed fee. On 7 June 2020, he netted through a free kick in the 2-1 away defeat of Athletiki Inosi Larissa F.C. in the opening game of the playoffs, after an 80-day enforced COVID-19 break. Fernández continued competing abroad the following seasons, with Core Fakin Club in the UAE Pro League and Wisła Krakow in the Polish Ekstraklasa and the I-Liga. On 12th of July 2023, he joined Lechia Gdansk, also from the country's second tier. On 22nd of July 2023, Fernández scored a hat-trick in a 4-2 away win against Chrobry Głogów, twice from penalties. He totaled 7 during the season, in spite of missing several matches due to a meniscus injury, helping Lechia to claim the championship and subsequently promote. In late September 2024, a month after an unsuccessful trial with fellow top-flight club Rakow Częstochowa, Fernández filed for his contract to be unilaterally terminated. He cited unpaid wages and not being allowed to train with the rest of the squad as the reasons. Fernández returned to Spain on 2nd of January 2025, joining Primera Federación side CD Errantero. 1 year later, the 32-year-old announced his retirement. Our next topic tonight is Hillsboro, Missouri. Hillsboro is a city in and the county seat of Jefferson County, Missouri, United States. The population was 3,473 at the 2020 census, up from 2,821 in 2010. Hillsboro was originally called Monticello, and under the latter name was platted in 1839 and named after Monticello, home of President Thomas Jefferson. The name Monticello was afterwards changed because the U.S. postal authorities refused to accept that name, there being another post office in the state with a similar name. The present name Hillsboro is the English equivalent of the Italian name Monticello. A post office has been in operation at Hillsboro since 1838. The Thomas C. Fletcher House and Sandy Creek Covered Bridge are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Geography. According to the United States Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 365 square miles, 9.45 square kilometers, all land. 2020 census. As of the 2020 census, Hillsboro had a population of 3,473. The median age was 30 years. 27. 9% of residents were under the age of 18 and 7% of residents were 65 years of age or older. For every 100 females there were 103, 1 males, and for every 100 females age 18 and over there were 102, 1 males age 18 and over. 0% of residents lived in urban areas, while 0% lived in rural areas. There were 1147 households in Hillsboro, of which 9% had children under the age of 18 living in them. Of all households, 2% were married couple households, 5% were households with a male householder and no spouse or partner present, and 3% were households with a female householder and no spouse or partner present. About 3% of all households were made up of individuals, and 3% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. There were 1,227 housing units, of which 5% were vacant. The homeowner vacancy rate was 1.4% and the rental vacancy rate was 7.4%. 2010 census. As of the census of 2010, there were 2,821 people, 900 households, and 623 families living in the city. The population density was 772, 9 inhabitants per square mile, 298, 4/km2. There were 957 housing units at an average density of 262, 2 per square mile, 101, 2/km2. The racial makeup of the city was 94.5% white, 8% African American, 4% Native American, 5% Asian, 5% from other races, and 3% from 2 or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 0% of the population. There were 900 households, of which 2% had children under the age of 18 living with them, 3% were married couples living together, 9% had a female householder with no husband present, 0% had a male householder with no wife present, and 8% were non-families. 1% of all households were made up of individuals, and 2% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 269 and the average family size was 323. The median age in the city was 29, 2 years. 9% of residents were under the age of 18, 8% were between the ages of 18 and 24, 2% were from 25 to 44, 19% were from 45 to 64, and 2% were 65 years of age or older. The gender makeup of the city was 52.0% male and 48.0% female. 2000 census. As of the census of 2000, there were 1,675 people, 581 households, and 395 families living in the city. The population density was 701, 4 inhabitants per square mile, 270, 8/km2. There were 620 housing units at an average density of 259, 6 per square mile, 100, 2/km2. The racial makeup of the city was 46% white, 3% African American, 36% Native American, 66% Asian, 60% from other races, and 90% from 2 or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 15% of the population. There were 581 households, out of which 1% had children under the age of 18 living with them, 7% were married couples living together, 5% had a female householder with no husband present, and 0% were non-families. 2% of all households were made up of individuals, and 3% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 60, and the average family size was 309. In the city, the population was spread out with 7% under the age of 18, 7% from 18 to 24, 8% from 25 to 44, 9% from 45 to 64, and 9% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 31 years. For every 100 females, there were 107, 0 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 106, 0 males. The median income for a household in the city was $36,850, and the median income for a family was $44,000. Males had a median income of $30,880 versus $24,408 for females. The per capita income for the city was $15,585. About 7% of families and 3% of the population were below the poverty line, including 6% of those under age 18 and 4% of those age 65 or over. Education. The main campus of Jefferson College is located in Hillsboro. Jefferson College is a 2-year institution that serves the broader Jefferson County area. Hillsboro R3 School District is the local school district. The city has one high school, Hillsboro High School. Our next topic tonight is Matilda Mann. Matilda Mann is an English indie folk musician from West London. She has released 4 EPs. If that makes sense, because I wanted you to know, Sonder and You Look Like You Can't Swim. In early 2025, she released her debut LP, Roxwell. Early life. Mann spent her early childhood near Shepherd's Bush. She attended the Brit School for Sixth Form. Career. Mann released her first EP in 2019, titled If That Makes Sense. The EP led her to open for some notable musicians including Arlo Parks, Biba Doobie, and the Staves. In September 2020, Mann released a new song titled Happy Anniversary, Stranger, the first released from Mann's then upcoming EP. The EP, titled Because I Wanted You to Know, was released in November 2020. In 2021, Mann released her third EP titled Sonder. Mann released the song Doomsday in April 2021. In February 2022, Mann released a new song titled Four-Leaf Dream. Mann released another new song in April 2022 titled Nice. Her most recent extended release was the EP You Look Like You Can't Swim in July 2023. In December 2023, Mann released Make It Home, a Christmas-themed single. She also sings harmony vocals on the Bombay Bicycle Club's single Fantasnes, released in January 2024, and appears in the song's acoustic music video. In May 2024, it was announced that Mann would be the special guest for Wallow's Model World Tour's Europe/UK leg. In July, Mann released 2 new singles, Meet Cute and Tell Me That I'm Wrong. The music video for Meet Cute premiered on 24th of July 2024. In the autumn, she served as the opening act for Role Models' No Place Like Tour World Tour in the UK. In September 2024, Mann announced her debut album Rockswell set for release on 28th of February 2025. In the lead-up to the album, she released the singles Say It Back, Everything I'm Not, Dazed and Confused, Just Because, and Girls. Everything I'm Not featured in the video game Life is Strange, Double Exposure. In addition, she recorded a cover of There Will Never Be Another You for the 2025 tribute album Chet Baker Re-Imagined. In November 2024, Mann announced her first headline tour titled Rockswell Tour, covering the UK and Europe in 2025. Rockswell received overwhelmingly positive reviews, with critics calling it a stunning showcase of her folk pop sensibilities, and noting that a mixture of contemplative and emotional lyrics with witty and sarcastic ones throughout the album firmly establishes Mann as one of the UK's most promising singer-songwriters. Artistry. While she was growing up, Mann's father would play the Beatles, David Bowie, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Joni Mitchell in the household. She listened to soundtracks to films such as Juno from a young age, as well as the likes of Avril Lavigne, Corinne Bailey Rae, Lion La Havas, and Adele. Mann named Laura Marling one of her biggest influences when getting into singing and songwriting. Happy Anniversary, Stranger, was written with Matt Maltese, and Mann considered Big Thief an influence on her debut EP. She also cited an admiration for contemporaries Laufey, Hope Tala, and Olivia Dean. Our next topic tonight is Rahul Dev. Rahul Dev Kaushal is an Indian actor and former model who predominantly works in Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, Bengali, and Odia language films. He also participated in Big Boss, Hindi Season 10, and was evicted on day 63. Early life. Rahul Dev Kaushal was born on 27th of September 1968 in New Delhi, India, into a Punjabi Hindu Brahmin family with ancestral roots in a village in Jalandhar district. Rahul Dev and his younger brother, Mukul Dev, were born to Hari Dev, who was an assistant commissioner of police. Hari Dev died on April 17, 2019 at the age of 91. Their Punjab-born father had exposed the brothers to Afghan culture and could himself speak both Pashto and Farsi. Dev was educated at the St. Columbus School, Delhi. Rahul wanted to become a cricketer, but later pursued engineering. In 1993, while in his final year of college studying to be an engineer, he was discovered by fashion designer Rohit Khosla, who encouraged him to pursue modeling, a path he chose in 1994. He has also worked with a garment company before establishing his own business. He also has a sister, Rashmi. Model Dev was one of the top Indian male models of the 1990s, itself considered the best decade for Indian male models. For his professional work, he often switched between Delhi and Mumbai, where had moved in 1996. He featured in ad commercials for important brands such as Tata and Raymond, as well lifestyle and entertainment magazines. Dev started his career as a professional model in 1994 and retired from modeling in 2002 to focus more on acting. Films. Dev made his screen debut in the 2000 film Champion, where he played a villainous role for which he was nominated for the 2001 Filmfare Best Villain Award. He then moved into Malayalam cinema, playing the role of an assassin Sheikh Imran in Amal Nirhad Sagar alias Jackie Reloaded. He also appeared as a villain in the Punjabi movie Dardi in 2011. 2 years later, he made a comeback with Sringaravelan. He appeared in Bhojpuri film Dulhan Chahai Pakistan C2 in 2018. Television. In December 2013, Dev made his television debut, playing the role of the demon Aranasur in the mythological TV series Devan Ki Dev, Mahadev. Relationships and family. Dev's wife, Reena, died of cancer on 16th of May 2009. The couple had been married for 11 years and have a son, Siddhant. Dev has spoken about the experience of being a single father. As of 2020, he was in a relationship with model and actress Mugdha Gods. Business ventures. In 1994, when he became a model, Dev also opened his own company, Rap Overseas, producing and exporting leather garments. Cricket. An enthusiast of cricket in his youth, Dev represented Delhi at under-19 level and was coached by the influential Gurcharan Singh. Our next topic tonight is Andriy Sharaskin. Andriy Andreyovich Sharaskin is a Ukrainian actor, military commander, and politician currently serving as a People's Deputy of Ukraine from the proportional list of the Holos Party since 2020. Prior to his election, he served in the war in Donbas, commanding cyborgs from the Ukrainian Volunteer Corps during the Second Battle of Donetsk Airport. Early life and career. Andriy Andreyovich Sharaskin was born on 20th of September 1977 in the western Ukrainian city of Ternopil, then part of the Soviet Union. Sharaskin is a graduate of the Kyiv National I.K. Karpenko-Karry Theater, Cinema and Television University, and prior to 2013, he was an actor in several television films. Sharaskin founded a Lviv and Ternopil-based children's acting school in 2006, and he additionally directed a children's theater in Lviv. Military career. Sharaskin was a participant in Euromaidan. Following the Revolution of Dignity and the beginning of the Russo-Ukrainian War, he joined the far-right Right Sector as well as its paramilitary wing, the Ukrainian Volunteer Corps. He fought in the war in Donbas and was one of the commanders of the cyborgs during the Second Battle of Donetsk Airport, leading units of the Ukrainian Volunteer Corps. He fought under the military call sign of Bohemia. In recognition of his activities during the battle, he was awarded the Order for Courage 3rd Class. After leaving combat in January 2016, Sharaskin served as a personal consultant to the 2017 film Cyborgs, with the central character being heavily based on Sharaskin. He had previously introduced screenwriter Natalia Vorozhbit to the cyborgs during the war in Donbas. Political career. Sharaskin became leader of Right Sector in 2015. He additionally worked as deputy to Dmytro Yarosh, after Yarosh left Right Sector to form the government initiative of Dmytro Yarosh. Sharaskin's activities in Right Sector were later noted on Russian state television channel Russia 1, where he was referred to as a Nazi and a puppet of the United States. During the 2019 Ukrainian parliamentary election, Sharaskin was the 20th candidate on the proportional list of the Liberal Holos Party, having previously been introduced to the party by personal friend and fellow cyborg Roman Kostenko. As Holos won only 17 proportional list seats during the election, Sharaskin was not originally elected to the Verkhovna Rada, Ukraine's parliament. After Holos leader Sviatoslav Vakarchuk chose to resign in June 2020, however, Sharaskin was brought into the Verkhovna Rada to fill the seat vacated by Vakarchuk. Following his appointment to the Verkhovna Rada, Sharaskin became secretary of the Verkhovna Rada Foreign Affairs and Interparliamentary Cooperation Committee. In June 2021, along with 9 other People's Deputies from Holos, Sharaskin established the Justice Parliamentary Group in protest of Kira Rudik's leadership of the party. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Sharaskin claimed that the government of China had demanded Ukraine remove its signature from United Nations Human Rights Council statements calling for an independent investigation into the persecution of Uyghurs in China. According to Sharaskin, the Chinese government threatened to cease delivering COVID-19 vaccines if Ukraine did not remove its signature from the statements. Sharaskin has expressed opposition to violence against Ukraine's LGBT community, comparing his position towards the LGBT community to that of Pope Francis, and has condemned threats of violence against pride parades from right sector members. However, in the Verkhovna Rada, he proposed an amendment to exclude sexual orientation and gender identity from recognized forms of discrimination in media. Sharaskin's amendment, which ran counter to the position of other Holos members such as Inna Savsun, was unsuccessful. He additionally voted against the ratification of the Istanbul Convention. Personal life: Sharaskin is a Christian. He has 1 daughter and briefly lived in poverty while raising her from 2005 to 2006. It is unknown if he is married. Let us drift gently now toward PGA National Resort. PGA National Resort is a resort in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. It has 5 championship 18-hole golf courses, the most famous of which is the Champion, which has hosted the 1983 Ryder Cup, the 1987 PGA Championship, the Senior PGA Championship for 19 consecutive years from 1982 to 2000, and the PGA Tour's Cognizant Classic since 2007. It was the home to the Professional Golfers Association of America since the resort's establishment, but the PGA moved to new headquarters in Texas in summer 2022. The resort also includes 339 hotel rooms, 9 restaurants and lounges, a 34,000 square foot conference wing, a 40,000 square foot spa, 33,000 square foot health and racket club with 19 tennis courts, a golf academy, and a members club. It was sold by the developer, LL Wid Ecclestone Jr., to Walton Street Capital in 2006 for $170 million, before being sold again in 2018 to Brookfield Asset Management for $218 million. In January 2025, ownership changed again, when Henderson Park acquired the property in a joint venture with Salamander Hotels and Resorts and South Street Partners. Courses The Champion. The Champion course opened in 1981 on November 17th. It was the site of the Ryder Cup in 1983, the PGA Championship in 1987, won by Larry Nelson, and the Senior PGA Championship for 19 years, from 1982 to 2000. The course underwent a $4 million renovation in December 2002 and became the home of the Honda Classic on the PGA Tour in 2007. The tough three-hole stretch of the par 3 15th, par 4 16th, and par 3 17th holes is known as the Bear Trap, named after Jack Nicklaus, who is nicknamed the Golden Bear and redesigned the course. The course was host to the 2018 Governor Cup for the first time in its history. The Fazio, originally the Hague course, named for golfing great Walter Hagen. It was the first course open for play at PGA National Resort on March 4, 1980, then was renovated and renamed the Fazio after course architect Tom Fazio upon opening in November 2012. The Palmer, named for golfist and course designer Arnold Palmer, was the last of the original 4 courses built at PGA National, opening on February 28, 1984. The Palmer was previously named the General. The Estates originally opened in November 1984 as Stonewall Golf Club, and has been part of PGA National since August 28, 1988. The Match, born from the old Squire course. The Match course opened for play in the fall of 2021 and was designed with match play in mind. The Staple, with holes ranging from 60 to 130 yards, this 9-hole course is intended for experimenting with shots and is for players of all abilities. Ballin Isles, the original PGA National Golf Club in Palm Beach Gardens, was nearby to the east and is now the Ballin Isles Country Club. The Champions Course, now the East Course at Ballin Isles, hosted the PGA Championship in 1971, won by Nicklaus in late February. It also was the site of 8 consecutive senior PGA championships and the original qualifying school tournaments for the PGA Tour. Dunedin, an earlier PGA National Golf Club, was on the western side of the state at Dunedin, northwest of Tampa. Designed by noted architect Donald Ross, it opened 99 years ago in 1927 as a municipal course. Acquired by the PGA of America in 1944, the course was renamed and hosted the PGA Seniors Championship for 18 consecutive years. The PGA of America moved its national offices from Chicago to Dunedin in 1956, then sold its holdings in the course back to the city in 1962, and relocated to eastern Florida in 1965 at Palm Beach Gardens. Now the Dunedin Golf Club, the course was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2014. Let us drift gently now toward Wessam Abou Ali. Wessam Haytham Mohammed Abou Ali is a professional footballer who plays as a striker for Major League Soccer club Columbus Crew. Born in Denmark, He plays for the Palestine national team. Abi starting out in local Aalborg club B52/AFC at age 4. Abou Ali moved to the largest club in the region, Abi, 6 years later. He made his senior Danish Superliga debut on 15th of March 2018 against AC Horsens. He scored his first senior goal on 22nd of April 2018 against FC Midtjylland. Loaned to Vendsyssel on 23rd of August 2019, Abou Ali was loaned out to Danish First Division club Vendsyssel FF for the rest of 2019. On 5th of January 2020, it was confirmed that he would continue at Vendsyssel for the rest of the season. Silkeborg on 9th of September 2020, Abou Ali joined newly relegated Danish First Division club Silkeborg IF on a 4.5-year contract until the end of 2024. He scored his first goal for his new club on 19th of September in a 3-1 win versus Esbjerg. On 18th of December, he scored a brace in a match against Skive IK. Returned to Vendsyssel in the search for more playing time, Abou Ali returned to Vendsyssel FF on 1st of September 2021, signing a deal until June 2025. During his debut against Lyngby Bold Club on 12th of September, Abou Ali suddenly collapsed on the pitch and was brought to the hospital. Abou Ali came on from the bench in the half-time before collapsing in the 59th minute. 2 days later, he was discharged from the hospital and began rehabilitation. On 15th of February 2022, in a friendly game against Dynamo Moscow, Abou Ali had to be taken from the field on a stretcher and driven to the hospital after suffering a punctured lung. IK Sirius on 13th of July 2023, it was confirmed that Abou Ali had joined Swedish Allsvenskan club IK Sirius on a deal until the end of 2027. After only one training session with his new club, he started 2 days later on 15th of July in the away match against Det Djurfors IF and scored the opening goal via a header to help lead his club to a 3-0 win. Al Ali on 11th of January 2024, Abou Ali joined Egyptian club Al Ali by signing a 4.5-year contract for a reported fee of euros 2 million. On 23rd of February, he made his debut in a 1-0 away win over Medima in the CAF Champions League. 4 days later, he scored his first goals by netting a brace in a 5-1 victory over Baladiet El Mahala. On 26th of April, he scored his first CAF Champions League goal in a 3-0 victory over TP Mazembe in the semi-finals second leg. He achieved his first trophy with the club by winning the 2024 CAF Champions League final, defeating Esperance 1-0 on aggregate. He later secured the Egyptian Premier League title and finished as the top scorer with 18 goals despite joining mid-season. In the final game of the 2024-25 season, Abou Ali scored 4 goals against Farco to help the team capture the Egyptian Premier League title. On 23rd of June 2025, Abou Ali scored a hat-trick in Al Ali's 4-4 draw against Porto in the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Scoring with both feet and his head, it was the first perfect hat-trick in the history of intercontinental club tournaments and the first hat-trick by an Asian player in a FIFA club competition. He was also awarded as the superior player of the match for his performance. Columbus Crew on 26th of July 2025. Abou Ali signed with Major League Soccer club Columbus Crew through the 2027 season with a club option for 2028, with the reported transfer fee being $7.5 million plus $1 million in add-ons. He made his debut with the club on 23rd of August 2025 in a 2-1 loss to the New England Revolution. After failing to score in his first 2 matches for his new club, Abou Ali found the net in each of his next 3 appearances before being forced off injured in the third, against Toronto FC, after suffering a hairline fracture to his right ankle. The injury ruled him out for the remainder of the season. Abou Ali finished his abbreviated campaign with 3 goals in 5 appearances. International career. Born in Denmark, Abou Ali is of Palestinian descent. He is a former youth international for Denmark, but ultimately committed to the Palestinian national team. On 27th of March 2024, the Palestinian Football Association announced FIFA approval of his change of allegiance, paving the way for him to play with the Palestinian national team. He made his debut on 6th of June 2024 in a World Cup qualifier against Lebanon at the Jassim bin Hamad Stadium in Qatar. He started the game and was substituted in added time, as the game ended in a scoreless draw. Later that year, on 10th of September, he scored his first international goal in a 3-1 defeat against Jordan during the World Cup qualifier third round. Abou Ali scored 4 goals for Palestine during the third round, but the team were eliminated after a draw in the last match against Oman. Scores and results list Palestine's goal tally first. Score column indicates score after each Abou Ali goal. Egyptian Premier League, 2023-24, 2024-25 Egyptian Super Cup, 2024 CAF Champions League, 2023-24 FIFA African, Asian, Pacific Cup, 2024 Individual. Let us drift gently now toward T.K. Sreepada Rao. T.K. Sreepada Rao is an Indian-American nephrologist and academic. His biggest scientific achievement is discovering 2 new renal diseases: nephropathy associated with intravenous heroin addiction in early 1970s, and nephropathy associated with HIV infection in early 1980s. He successfully transported 2 cadaver donor kidneys from New York to Bombay and participated in the renal transplantation. He has more than 130 scientific publications to his credit. He is one of the few international medical graduates who has a tenured professorship in a medical school in the United States. Early life. Rao was born in a Madhwa family in Kolar, Karnataka, India. He was the 5th child of T.K. Krishnamurthy Rao and Nagamma. His father was a railway station master who died of a heart attack when Rao was 6 years old. His early schooling was in Channapatna, Karnataka. He graduated from high school in first class, establishing a record for the highest marks scored in Channapatna and in the top 15 in Karnataka state. He graduated in first class in pre-university studies at National College, Bengaluru in Bangalore, and was admitted to Bangalore Medical College. He stayed in Ramakrishna Vidyarthi Mandiram throughout his student career. He completed his medical degree from Bangalore Medical College as the top student with 5 gold medals. After completing 1 year of house surgency, he left for the United States in June 1967. He completed 4 years of medical residency at New Jersey College of Medicine hospitals in Newark and East Orange, New Jersey. Career from 1971 to 1973. He was a fellow in renal medicine at State University of New York Downstate Medical Center and Kings County Hospital. After passing the American Board of Internal Medicine, he was awarded a fellowship from the American College of Physicians. Subsequently, he was also board certified in the subspecialty of nephrology. During his fellowship, he published his original work on heroin-associated nephropathy in the New England Journal of Medicine. In 1984, he described for the first time renal disease in patients with acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS. His original work, AIDS-associated nephropathy, was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1984. Rao started working at SUNY Downstate Medical Center as a nephrologist. He was promoted to professor of medicine and associate director of renal diseases. He was also the director of hemodialysis services at Kings County Hospital and a consultant in nephrology at Brooklyn Veterans Administration Hospital. He has published more than 130 scientific articles and chapters in textbooks. He is the founding member, past president, board of trustees, and CME chairman of the American Association of Physicians Queens and Long Island chapter. Rao was the nephrologist who cared for Jayaprakash Narayan when he visited the United States. He was also a nephrologist in charge of M. G. Ramachandran, Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, and Chenna Reddy, Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, both of whom underwent renal organ transplantation at Downstate Medical Center. He was also a consultant for the governor of Pondicherry, who suffered renal insufficiency. Rao was awarded honorary degrees from Madras University and Manipal University. He has been honored by the Indian Society of Nephrology and the American Nephrologists of Indian Origin, Nassau County, New York. Personal life: Rao is married to Pushpa and has 2 children. He lives in Long Island, New York. He is a member of the Indian Association of Long Island and the Bangalore Medical College Alumni Association. Selected publications: Rao, T.K. Sreepada. Human immunodeficiency, virus in patients with end-stage renal disease. In Hurl, Walter H. Koch K.M., Lindsay Robert M. Ronco Claudio, Winchester J.F. eds. Replacement of renal function by dialysis. Springer. ISBN 978-1-4020-0083-6. Retrieved 13th of January 2009. When you are ready, we move on to Hiroaki Sakurai. Hiroaki Sakurai is a Japanese anime director and bassist who is known for his work in UFO Baby and the Dai Gi Charat series. He has served as the director for series such as Nanaka 6/17, Cromarty High School, Les Miserables, Shoujo Set, Ga Jaijutsuka Art Design Class, Maid Sama, Nekagami Yaoyorozu, Jewelpit Happiness, The Disastrous Life of Seiki Kei, and The Demon Girl Next Door. He is married to Sayuri Oba, an anime screenwriter. Career: Sakurai was in college for 5.5 years and spent his time playing in bands and bassist auditions. One day, he suddenly became interested in animation, and after graduating from the Department of Literature and Science at Nihon University, he worked at Yoyogi Animation Academy and joined Studio World, which was looking for assistant directors, at the age of 25. The first work he was involved in as an assistant director was Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross, and the first time his name appeared in the credits was in Yoroshiku Mecha Doc. When he was in charge of Mecha Doc, Masayuki Kojima and Ken Baba served as his seniors. In the spring of 1988, Studio World disbanded and Sakurai moved to Film Magic, which was founded by Baba. In the middle of Akazukin Chacha, Film Magic went bankrupt due to reasons mentioned below, and after that he went freelance. Style: according to Hatsuki Tsuji, Sakurai is described as someone who has good qualities, but who can be conceited. He often uses voice actors such as Mika Kanai and Kaori Nazuka in his directorial projects. Inspired by the direction of Akitaro Daichai and Tatsuo Sato, who were part of Akazukin Chacha's rotation of directors, Sakurai was too elaborate in his direction and was unable to adhere to the limited number of sheets, resulting in constant deficits and driving Film Magic into bankruptcy. However, Takaaki Wada, who was in charge of key animation in certain episodes, claims that Sakurai, Wada, and the other animators ignored the president's advice and got carried away, and that the bankruptcy was their own fault. Sakurai is known for his love of the ukulele and for carrying one with him at all times, even to the studios. In addition, the soundtrack for Cromarty High School features music by the progressive rock band by Kaio Ran, who are from the same town as him and of whom he was a fan for many years, and also worked with the band as a bassist, later becoming a full member. He also played bass in the opening song, Dynamite Ing, for TV Tokyo's Daigi Charat Nayo, and performed a solo part. He stated that he had 9 left-handed basses at the time. Let your mind wander now to Love Me Till the Sun Shines. Love Me Till the Sun Shines is a 1967 song by the English rock band The Kinks. Appearing on their album Something Else by The Kinks, it was, unlike most of the band's songs, written by guitarist Dave Davies. It was originally released as the B-side to Dave Davies' debut single, Death of a Clown, in August 1967. The song made a further 2 appearances on vinyl, as an album track on the Kinks' album Something Else by The Kinks, in September 1967, and as a track on the Dave Davies Hits EP released in April 1968. The latter record was a 4-track compilation of Davies' first 2 singles. Reception: Love Me Till the Sun Shines has generally received positive reception from critics. Rolling Stone writer James Pomeroy said that Dave is at his brutal and cynical best in Love Me Till the Sun Shines. AllMusic critic Stuart Mason said, one of three Dave Davies compositions on something else by the Kinks, Love Me Till the Sun Shines isn't the tremendous creative leap forward that Death of a Clown is, or evidence of a charming whimsicality on a par with his brother's like Funny Face, but it's nonetheless impressive. Basically, it's the culmination of Davies' earlier attempts at songwriting, which were primarily in the blues format of repetitive lines, balanced with a refrain that ends every verse. The difference this time is that the style doesn't feel forced, and there's much less cliched imagery in the lyrics. They may not be nearly as imaginative as the phantasmagorical death of a clown, but at least they make sense and they get across the main point, which, again in keeping with Davies' earlier songs, is basically high. I'm really horny, how about it? With a minimum of fuss. Although the production is unfortunately askew, with some hand claps on the later verses that are bizarrely overprominent and a bass line that might as well not exist, the song rocks harder than anything else on the otherwise fairly placid album. The song was recorded by the Kinks twice for BBC Radio, in 1967 and 1968. The 1968 version is widely considered to be the definitive reading of the song, with a much more prominent bass line from Pete Quaife. It was a regular feature of the Kinks' live set from 1967 to 1969, and was later played solo by Dave Davies. Personnel according to band researcher Doug Hinman. The Kinks' Dave Davies, lead vocal, electric guitar Ray Davies, acoustic guitar Pete Quaife, bass Mick Avery, drums, tambourine unidentified played by the Kinks, handclaps additional musician. Let us drift gently now toward International Paper. The International Paper Company is an American pulp and paper company, the largest such company in the world. It has approximately 39,000 employees and is headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. The company was incorporated January 31st, 1898, upon the merger of 17 pulp and paper mills in the northeastern United States and eastern Canada. Its founders and first two presidents were William Augustus Russell, who died suddenly in January 1899, and Hugh J. Guillaume. Philip Tell Dodge, president of the Mergenthaler Linotype Company, served as its chairman for 11 years. The invention of the linotype dramatically increased the size of newspapers and the need for newsprint. The newly formed company supplied 60% of all newsprint in the country. The Hudson River Mill in Corinth, New York, where the Sacandaga River joins the Hudson River, was a pioneer in the development of the modern paper industry in the late 19th century. The first wood-based newsprint paper mill in New York, it was built by Albrecht Pagenstecker in 1869. In the early 20th century, the Hudson River Mill was one of the company's largest plants and served both as its principal office and a place where paper workers helped shape the direction of the industry's early labor movement. After World War II, Hudson River Mill workers developed the production of coated paper for the company. Shifting economic forces resulted in the mill's closure in November 2002. The historic mill, was slated for partial demolition during 2011. The work, including asbestos removal, was completed by North Star Group Services. Given the nature of their products, paper plants are highly flammable. Therefore, International Paper Company frequently used asbestos insulation in its walls, floors, and roofs as a protective measure. Asbestos insulation was also used on pipes and boilers throughout International Paper plants. This material, intended to protect people, instead turned out to severely damage their health. The producers did not reveal that their asbestos products were dangerous, even though asbestos was known to cause illnesses as far back as the 1920s. Consequently, many former employees of International Paper have been diagnosed with mesothelioma following decades of service. The book Betrayal of Local 14, Paper Workers, Politics, and Permanent Replacements was written about the strike at the Androscoggin Mill. The book was written by Julius Gerson Getman, who was an attorney representing the striking paper workers. 1986 to 2000. In 1980, the company sold its Canadian newsprint mills and associated land to Canadian Pacific. This company eventually became Avenir and later was purchased by Bowater. Part of the sale included the Rocky Brook Fishing Lodge in New Brunswick, and IP retained limited access to the lodge. Eventually, IP bought the lodge back from Bowater. In 1986, the company acquired the Hammermill Paper Company, founded in 1898, which managed 11 paper mills nationwide, and had its corporate offices based in Erie, PA. In 1988, the Masonite Corporation, and in 1989, the German paper company Zanders Feinpapier AG and the French paper manufacturer Ossadat Ray. In 1996, it purchased Federal Paper Board. In 1999, the company purchased Union Camp Corporation, and in June 2000 Champion International. Additionally, it owned shares in the Chilean company Copec. 2012. In 2012, International Paper acquired Temple Inland in a deal valued at $4.5 billion. Temple Inland then became a wholly owned subsidiary of International Paper. At the time of sale, Temple Inland's corrugated packaging operation consisted of 7 mills and 59 converting facilities, as well as the building products operation. 2020's International Paper completed the acquisition of British packaging company D.S. Smith for $7.2 billion in January 2025. In 2025, International Paper announced the sale of its global cellulose fibers business to private equity firm American Industrial Partners for $1.5 billion. Restructuring, 2005 to 2006. In 2005 and 2006, the company undertook a significant restructuring, selling over 6 million acres, 24,000 square kilometers, of forestland in the U.S., along with its coated paper, craft paper, wood products, and beverage packaging businesses, as well as subsidiaries Arizona Chemical and New Zealand-based Carter Holt Harvey. The coated paper business, 4 mills in Maine, Michigan, and Minnesota, were sold to Apollo Management and now operate as Verso Paper. The craft paper business, composed of a craft paper mill in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, and a dunnage bag plant in Fordyce, Arkansas, was sold to Capstone Paper and Packaging and operates as Capstone Craft Paper. The beverage packaging business, now called Evergreen Packaging, was purchased by Carter Holt Harvey, following the purchase of CHH by Graham Hart. The company sold its wood products division to West Fraser Timber, based in Vancouver, British Columbia. This included 13 sawmills, making West Fraser the second largest producer of lumber in North America, after Weyerhaeuser Company. Company logo. The company's former logo was designed by American graphic designers Lester Beale and Richard Rogers in 1960. The logo featured the letters I and P, which formed a stylized arrow also resembling a tree surrounded by a circle. A primary constraint in the design process was the need for a logo simple enough that it could be stenciled onto trees and lumber intended for paper production. On March 7, 2023, the company announced a rebrand to coincide with the company's 125th anniversary. The rebrand included a new logo which features a stylized monogram, composed of green elements forming the two letters. Each of the elements features a straight top line and a rounded bottom. The dark green emblem is placed on the left from the two-leveled title case inscription in a modern sans serif typeface, in black. International Paper owns Tower I at 6,400 Poplar and occupies the entire property and leases 50,000 square feet in Tower Roman II at 6,410 Poplar, and all of Tower Roman III at 6,420 Poplar. In 2000, International Place Tower Roman III was designed and rests amid the two existing towers and courtyard. The Crump firm designed the 11-story, 234,000 square foot tower to include offices, conference rooms, training rooms, and dining facilities. The exterior granite was bought and warehoused in the mid-1980s, with the intent that its construction would mimic that of the earlier towers. However, inclusion of seismic criteria to the Memphis Building Code in 1994 made the initial design unable to move forward. Therefore, architects had to completely change the original structural design in order to adhere to the strict exterior dimensions needed to utilize the existing granite and to match the existing towers. In 2012, it was announced that International Paper was building a $90, 2,235,000 square foot tower at 6,430 Poplar Ave in East Memphis. In addition to the 4 office towers at International Place, the company operates an airport hangar facility at 2,522 Winchester Road and a Southwind data center at 3,232 Players Club Parkway. Other company-related facilities include a recycling center on South 3rd and 2 warehouse operations across Memphis. The company used to be the largest producer of plastic lids and paper cups, manufacturing for the fast food giants McDonald's, Wendy's, Subway, but its consumer packaging division was sold to Graphic Packaging on January 2, 2018. Its wood products division was sold in 2007 to West Fraser Timber Co. Limited, a company headquartered in Vancouver, British Columbia. The company produces printer and copier paper, envelopes, corrugated packaging and pulp. The company is a former Dow Jones Industrial Average component, included in the index from July 3, 1956 to April 7, 2004. It was one of 3 components to be dropped in the 2004 change, together with AT&T Corporation and Eastman Kodak. Beginning February 1, 2007, the sale of the beverage packaging division was completed, as New Zealand billionaire Graham Hart won the bid with purchase price of nearly $800 million. The division now operates under the Evergreen label. On March 17, 2008, the company announced it was buying the containerboard unit of Ware Heuser for $6 billion in cash. In October of 2007, it formed a joint venture with Ilim Holding, Ilim Group, the alliance in the Russian forest sector. On July 1, 2014, the company announced the completion of the XPEG spin-off, which merged with Unisource, creating an independent company, Restorative Corporation. On May 2, 2016, it announced the acquisition of Ware Heuser's cellulose fiber division. The acquisition was completed on December 1, 2016. On October 1, 2021, a spin-off was completed, creating a stand-alone company by the name of Silvamo. Silvamo's headquarters are also located in Memphis, TN. Divested were the printing and communications, white uncoated freesheet, mills in Ticonderoga, NY, Eastover, SC, Mogi Guacu, Brazil, Luiz Antonio, Brazil, Tres Lagoas, Brazil, Salat, France, and Svetogorsk, Russia. That is all for tonight. Let the silence settle in. Sleep well.